you doing, everyone? Thanks for joining me. So today we have the video, which is ultra running tips with Holly Rush. So before we get started, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, leave a like and share the video afterwards on some other platforms. Okay, let's dive on in, see what Holly's got to say. How you doing, everyone? Thanks for joining us. So today we've got Holly Rush on the channel. And Holly is an ASICS front runner community manager. You've been doing that for 4 years now, which is building a running community. She's the co-host of Marathon Talk, which is an excellent podcast. If you haven't checked out Marathon Talk, check that out. Ex-international road marathoner turned ultra runner, studied geography at uni, went on to get a master's degree in sports coaching, runs everything from park runs all the way up to 100 milers. Didn't have an athletic background as a child, rode horses, but not much in the way of running. Watched the London Marathon 1 year when you were 18, I think it was, whilst drinking beers, which I was going to ask you. Every time I watch the London Marathon, it's on a Sunday morning, so I can't think of drinking beers on Sunday morning. I'm hoping you watched it on a replay later in the day. But no,
I watched it live.
That's dedication. But went on to run London the following year, did Bath Half as a warm-up race, did it as most people do their first marathon, wore their own clothes, wore rugby shorts, cotton clothing. It rained, it chafed, but you did manage to get 3:57, so under 4 hours, which was better than I did on my first marathon, so well done. And became hooked on running at that point. Overtrained the following year, had a bad diet, got injuries like we all do, but then did carry on, did some more marathons, managed to get 2:59 at Berlin, which is an amazing time. That prompted you to get a coach. Then you went on to represent Team GB at the European Champs in 2010. So within 14 years of running your first London, you're representing the country, which is a great job. 2012, I'm getting there, don't worry. 2012, after having ran 2:37 and multiple road marathons, became a bit disillusioned with the pressures of the time, wasn't really enjoying it, so thought you'd put your hand in on ultras, but you didn't like trails, so started off with Comrades in 2013, ran that to heart rate. Coach was Alan Story. Following year, went on to win Edinburgh and Pisa marathons. 2016, did North Downs 50 and the CCC, so you ventured over onto trails. Then following year again, did the CCC again. Cotswold Way 100 on your 40th birthday. Then you did the UTMB, and then about skipping a few years, last month you did London Marathon, and followed that with Autumn 100, Centurion running Autumn 100. Went for the British record, felt nauseous, didn't quite get that, but you did win in 16 hours, 51 minutes. So welcome, Holly Rush. How's that for an intro?
Wow, that was an amazing intro. You really have done your research. And actually, I'd really like you to write that down, because that's a perfect running CV, because I can never remember it in that order. So
I've got loads of stuff on you.
God, I mean, it's amazing. You honestly spot on. All of that is spot on. I think everything. Oh, apart from I did go to trails a little bit earlier than you said, because I went to Nepal. Right. And I did the most extreme trails you could probably do to totally sort of change my ideas about road running. But apart from everything else spot on.
Perfect. Right, so that's good. You didn't initially like trails, though, did you? Not a big fan.
No. As a road runner, I expect there'll be a lot of road runners maybe listening to this who are pure tarmac lovers. And because I sort of started running in London, I was just used to running on roads and pavements all the time. And I don't know what it was. I think it's because I was trying to be a bit of a speed demon, and the thought every time if I went off road or even onto a little bit of grass, it meant that my split times were slower. So therefore I hated it. So I was definitely anti-trails big time. I mean, I used to run a lot on the towpath where I lived in Bradford-on-Avon, and I considered that off-road. So that's how off-road I was.
So is that along canals and such like?
Basically a canal towpath, and it was like groomed gravel. And so I did a lot of my miles on that for my marathon training.
Right. So starting off, first question is, but I've kind of already answered it within the intro. do you run or train to heart rate? But I know you did in Berlin. Do you still do that?
Do you know, it's really funny. It's a good question because actually, and I would love to continue to run heart rate because I've always ran heart rate. I've got books and books of all my training and all my heart rates. And, I did a lot of testing in the labs. But for some reason, about 2 years ago, my heart rate stopped working.
Oh, right.
So basically, even with a heart rate strap, I've changed the batteries. I've had new heart rate straps. I've tried the wrist. I just cannot get a correct heart rate reading. I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but for some reason, my heart rate is elusive from being really good, getting all my data. I just can't rely on it anymore. I did actually use a watch the other day, which worked for approximately 2 days. And I got my heart rate back, which I was like, oh, this is exciting. The good news was I was basically running at the same ranges I used to. So to be honest, I think the years I've been running, which is over 20 years now, I sort of know my body really well, but I would love to get heart rate onto the works. And honestly, believe me, anyone that's listening to this who has a contract or works for a company, I have tried pretty much all of the.
In what way don't they work?
Watches.
Do they just send your heart rate?
Literally, it just gives me crazy readings. It'll either be 80 when I'm running fast or 220, which I know it's not. And it's just all over the place. It's honestly, it's so weird. If there are any companies out there who want to get me in to be tested or something. So I've just done some work with Polar. It still doesn't work. Sunto, who is my love. I'm not affiliated to any watch brand. But I do love the Sunto watch because it's so brilliant for my mapping, because I use it a lot for mapping for routes. But the heart rate used to work and it just doesn't anymore. I honestly don't know what's wrong with it. It's so annoying. But so in answer to that, I don't use heart rates anymore because it doesn't work.
Okay, that sort of thing's always happened with me, and I stopped. I tried to use heart rate years ago, and just got fed up with. I've gone out for an easy run. It says I'm on 180, and then I'd have a harder run, and it'd be totally different. So I stopped using them, but I've recently started to try and get back into it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great tool, and I do coach a couple of athletes, and I do like them to use heart rates because it just gives me an idea, because I'm not with them face to face and I can't see how hard they're working. Yeah. Whereas if they give me their heart rate values, I can have a bit of an idea and make sure. It's also really good for sort of daily running. If you know you're going to go out for an easy run, for some reason your heart rate, it's just really good in terms of increasing load, etc.
Yeah. Okay. So treadmill training. Do you do treadmill training? A lot of folks kind of shy away from using the treadmill, but can you explain how it can benefit to runners?
Okay, so I actually sort of grew up. I did a lot of treadmill running when I started running, because my background I managed health clubs. That's how I went on to, after I went to university. I didn't use my geography degree at all, and went on to do my master's. But I actually ended up managing gyms and health clubs. Sort of in Oxfordshire. Then I came back to Bath and I stayed there. So when I was there, I did a lot of my running on the treadmill because I worked such an awful shift. Sometimes I'd be on a treadmill at 4 o'clock in the morning. Right. I don't advocate that. I would never do that now, but that's what I had to, because I had to fit it around my work. So I did do a lot of running on the treadmill. Now I'm very lucky to be an ambassador for Noble Pro. So I'm treadmill, which is great. And I do use the treadmill. I use the treadmill. I actually used it quite a lot in the build up for this race, because I've been doing quite a lot of hill work. Yeah. Although where I live, it's very hilly. I wanted to do some long sustained hills, so I've been using the treadmill for that. And I also use it just for the easy sessions. And I do use them for tempo sessions. Not all. I try not to do all my sessions, but I've done marathons on treadmills and I've done 400-meter reps. So there is a place for them in my training. And I am used to running on a treadmill, but I know some people find it deathly dull. I get it.
Now, I used to hate treadmills, but I've been not too well this year. So I found it really good at helping me come back, sort of thing, because you've been able to nip on it, go for a run. And if you don't feel too good, you can get off, and yet you're already at home.
And also coming into the weather, when the weather's bad, obviously it's invaluable using a treadmill. If you're training for something, especially if people are training for spring marathons, it's really good to be able to use a treadmill. I would have been, back in the day when I trained twice a day, I would maybe get on the treadmill for my easy recovery run or something later on in the day, but I don't do double runs anymore. So.
Right, okay. And do you ever use Swift at all when you're on your treadmill?
No, I hate stuff like that. I'm not on Strava. I don't do Zwift. I don't do anything like that. I'm properly old school. I am pen and paper girl, and I just like to switch off, listen to a podcast, listen to music.
Do you not find it boring when you're on the treadmill then?
No, I really don't. I love listening to podcasts, obviously. Okay. Yeah. And And I love listening to music. If I'm doing fast sessions, I always listen to music. I mean, that is probably a bit of a crutch for me, but I love listening to like dance music, keeps me going. But no, I'm fine. I can run on a treadmill for hours and hours. I don't need to be doing weights or anything like that. I'm fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So something I've learned over the years is don't just run. So that's kind of like bringing me on to the next question. Can you tell us about the importance of strength work and structure? So like some common errors and what we should focus on.
Okay, so I can happily say that now, since 2018, I have built strength training, and I'm sure people that follow me or listen to me now will hear me banging on about it. But strength training really is just as important now as my running, and it's really part of my life. It wasn't when I was competing, and I wish it had been. I did sporadic strength training, but I never had an actual program that I stuck to, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I've talked about this a lot before, but the strength training that I did, and still people do, was just making me sore, and I wasn't, if your prime target is to run, your aim is to run, if you're sore from doing other things, you just end up knocking on the head because you think, well, hang on a minute, it's the running that's important. And I get it. Running still isn't the most important thing to me, so therefore running comes first. And that's always what I say when you're doing your training. When you do your training in the day, you do the most important thing first. So my running comes first, but so like I said, I've ditched my second runs, easy runs, which I used to do. I don't need to do that anymore. I have years and years of endurance. But what I do need to do is I need to have the consistency, which is what I didn't have because I kept getting injured. And that's mainly down to not having a strong chassis, which now, thankfully, touch wood, and it does take a long time to build that. If you go into a 12-week block, you will get a little bit stronger, but it takes like a year to build that strong body. So for me,
everyday stuff for a year. Or two?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't lift every day. So my lifting, I do 4 days a week. But even if you could do 2 days a week, that's great. I think once. I mean, if you do it once a week, it's great, but 2 minimum's great. Yeah. Because then you can obviously work upper and lower. So I do 2 upper, 2 lower, and I work on maybe sort of 3-month rotation, and then I change the program, or Pete changes the program for me, moment I work in sort of hypertrophy, so I'm trying to get strong again because I've sort of broken down after training for the 100. But yeah, so the strength training for me is really, really, really important. And I'm touching wood here. I haven't had, I was very injury prone. I had 7 fractures over my career, which is a lot.
All in the legs?
No, I've had, I fractured my back, my sacrum. That's the worst one I had. That put me out for 12 weeks of no running at all. I mean, I could barely make the bed, like bend over. It was so bad. I've broken my foot, completely broken my metatarsal, like in half in a race. I've had stress fractures in my tibias, in my metatarsals, in my heel, in my back. I mean, it's awful. Yeah. And that was the thing that made me change, to be honest. It was just before UTMB, I had another stress reaction in my foot. And I just thought, this is crazy. I need to make some changes. This is not, I can't sustain this. Not thinking that it would turn it around, but it turned it around. My body's stronger. My bones are stronger. I've had a bone scan, and I've managed to reverse the state of my back. Because I had osteoporosis in my back. I had osteopenia in my hip. I now have a normal hip. For my age, it's amazing that I've done that. And my back is now osteopenia. So I have still got to be aware of that. But, everything around my bones, I've made everything stronger. And also I just think as you get older as well, you just look better as well. If you've been in the gym and, running is lots and lots of running. It's just really not good for your body composition. It really isn't. No. And so you do need to mix it up. So, I do climb, I run, and I strength train. And I think I have a bit of a happy relationship with all of those, whereas it used to be running, miles. Yeah.
That's what so many of us do, though, isn't it? We just go out running, just pound the body, become injured, and then lots of people fall by the wayside and just say, oh, well, I can't run because I've got this issue or that issue. So
yeah, exactly. And I used to just run all the time thinking it was all about numbers for me, how many miles I was running, and I was just exhausted all the time. And now it's about each run I do. I say this before, it's like each run I do, there's a reason for it. So, if it's an easy long run, or it's a recovery run, or it's a session specifically to target, my 5K pace, or it's a session for my marathon pace, then there's all a reason why I do it. And I don't need to go out and do those junk miles.
Right.
I can go and do something else.
And do you do most of your runs now even split between road and trail, or is it predominantly trail?
No, it is probably even split. Yeah, it'd be interesting to look at that. It's a bit of both. I mean, where I live in Frome, it's very hilly, but it takes me about a mile to get to really great trails. There's East Mendip Way, which is really close to me, and I can run like basically all the way to Western-super-Mare if I want on trails. So there's always a little bit of road, obviously, for me to get somewhere unless I drive anywhere. But I mean, the only thing is I struggle to find anywhere really flat to do my sessions. So I do have to drive somewhere to do my sessions if I want to be on the flat. But trails, I've got Longleat Forest on my doorstep as well, so I'm there a bit. So I'd probably say, half and half, probably a little bit more trail.
Okay, that's good. So can you explain the difference between strength work and conditioning?
Yeah, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine. So a lot of people say I'm going to do my strength work, and you'll see them with their band. People are going to hate me for this.
Yeah.
They'll have their like different coloured bands, or they have ridiculously light weights. And you do need to, it's like with running, there needs to be progression. You need to load to get strong. And it's like if you do the same running session at the same pace, you're going to be the same speed, the same running, you're not going to adapt. So you do have to tax the body, and it's the same with strength training. Conditioning, I call, the band work, maybe throwing around a little kettlebell or something. And, I'm always, I will call people out sometimes and just say, look, okay, that's not strength work. Strength work is getting under and I'm saying, when I say heavyweights, this is individual. Like my heavyweight is different to someone else's.
Yeah.
But if you're in a gym and you have a strength coach and they'll take you through and get you to your 1 rep max, that's where you start from. And that's where I start from. And that's when all the programs that we do, we have concurrent programming that we do online. They are about getting stronger. If you want to do conditioning, that's fine, but you're not going to get strong.
Okay. And do people need to join a gym to target the correct muscles, or can you do stuff from home? It sounds like it's going to have to be a gym.
Well, if you've got a barbell and heavy weight and weights, which are heavier, you can do it at home. That's fine. I mean, you basically need a barbell and a rack and a bench, and you need weights, and those things are expensive, unfortunately. So all our programs we put people on, we always say you need to have a gym that you can use, unless you're really lucky and you have a home gym that is, well kitted out. And there's not many people that have that sort of kit. So the prerequisite is you do need to have a gym. And we're really lucky we have a gym just around the corner. During lockdown, we had some dumbbells and a pull-up bar, but we lost strength. And that's because we weren't able to get to the gym. Yeah,
so you were one of the happy ones to get back to the gym when they opened.
Yeah, I'm so happy to get back, although really depressing to, get back and realize that you can't do as many pull-ups as you used to, or you can't push as much as you used to. But it's like running, isn't it? When you have time off, it's actually sometimes can be quite exciting, because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start this run journey again, and I'm going to try and improve on this. I think a lot of us, we just keep going and going and going, and there's no sort of periodization. So with the lifting, so for instance, I got into the gym this week again, and I've not been able to lift properly for a few weeks because of recovering from the 100 and before the 100. And I've lost some of my strength, but that's cool. It means I've got something to work on and something to build on.
How much time off after the 100 did you have? Did you start running again that week, or have you just gone, no, enough's enough, I'm gonna have a beer and a pizza and just enjoy myself for a week?
So I took 8 full days off after the 100. I mean, I wrote about this in an Instagram post, actually, because I'd seen so many people after the 100 and many other, big races who were going out running like 2-3 days after. And don't get me wrong, obviously in my build up for the 100, I did the marathon 2 weeks before, I did a 70K. I took time off afterwards, a couple of days, but those weren't my target races. They weren't my all out, and the 100 was. And it was at the end of quite a long season for me, and I was hanging out for that. And I think you do need that break physically and mentally. Mentally more than ever, I needed it. My brain was fried. The 100 miler was basically a 16-hour mental argument with myself to not stop. And I felt like that really took its toll on me. It was so weird. I was jumbling my words. I couldn't think properly for at least a week afterwards, if not more than normal. And then physically, again, I wasn't too bad. I had a slight tib ant pain, which I got in the race on the last lap. But apart from that, so that was obviously something that needed to be looked after. But the rest of my body obviously are the usual aches and pains. Anyone who's done 100 will know you get up in the morning and you've not slept. and you feel like someone has whacked you around your lower half with a cricket bat constantly for like 24 hours. So the thought of actually going up and downstairs is really quite painful. So for a few days I sort of stumbled around, but I just walked. I had to walk the dog. The dog needs to go for a walk, so I need to walk him. And then after 8 days, I went out for a little jog. I think I did 4 or 5 miles, run with a friend to see how I felt. And and I was still tired. And I would say up until 2 weeks after, so just now, in fact I went for a run yesterday, was the first time I felt like I could probably go a little bit faster. So it's just been, the body hasn't been so bad, but I've just felt really tired, like I've wanted to sleep a lot, which I have, and my stomach wasn't great after the race, so I couldn't really eat very well 3 days afterwards, which was not good, and that sets you back a bit. So I definitely think you need to take time off. I mean, it's just like, why do you need to go back running that quickly?
A lot of people just think they need to get straight back to it to do some active recovery, but a bit rest.
But active recovery can be non-impact, I think the impact is, you can't get away from how much toll it's taken out of you. And sometimes you feel like you're okay, and then a couple of weeks later or months later, it will catch up with you. I don't think anyone gets away with it, not long term.
No. Walking a dog is probably ideal.
Walking the dog to the pub is the best recovery tool strategy you can do. And I did a bit of that, probably a bit too much of that. And you probably need to just ease off on the beers and the red wine. But you do feel like you got out of prison, after that 100, it's like, oh, brilliant. I can, I've got nothing on. So I think if you've put all of your heart and soul into preparing for that race, and you do the race, and that's the other thing, it depends on how it goes, doesn't it? But I felt like, obviously I was going for the British record. I said I was going to go for it. I didn't get it. I think I got like the second fastest, which was amazing for me, and to win, and I was over the moon for that. But I felt like that I needed to take that break afterwards. I just needed to back off. And I think you just need to think about what your motivation is. Like, what is your motivation to be running a couple of days later? Why are you doing it, really?
Yeah. Okay. Can you explain the importance of speed work? So someone like me, I don't have a track nearby, and I'm forever hearing on the likes of Marathon Talk, do 400s with the minute's rest or something like that. But is that sort of like a normal sort of workout, or what's the difference in doing a longer, more than 400 meter with a shorter rest or shorter? So, like, as I say, I don't use a track, so these sort of terms usually get lost on me, to be honest.
You don't need to be on a track to do speed work for a start. I mean, it is great if your coach or your program you've got online or from a book tells you to do 300s, 400s, 200s. Yeah, it's nicer to be on a track, isn't it? Because it's just easier to just run and press your button when you go past the line. But you can definitely do that outside. And I do a lot of my work to time, actually, which makes it easier. Like 2-minute efforts, 3-minute efforts. 3-minute efforts are great. So the way I look at it also depends really on what your aim is. So if you're training for a marathon, or if you're training for a parkrun PB or something, so it will be slightly different. But let's just say generally, I would look at doing a sort of faster rep session in the week. I do normally on Tuesday. A lot of people do it on Tuesday because it's track night, but it doesn't matter when it is. It gives you a bit of time after your long run at the weekend. And that would be something short. And that could be, the other thing is that, there are the sessions everyone does, which is 10, 12 by 400s, and build on that with a minute recovery or 2 minutes recovery. But there are so many sessions you can do, and you can mix it up. But I say that if you're going to be doing a rep session, I'd say the minimum real volume you need to be looking at, and let's look at it in time, is say 12 minutes. Okay, minimum volume. And that could be split up. So that could be 12 by 1 minute off a minute recovery, or you could do 2 minutes, and you could take that, say 20, 24 minutes of effort. And then I'll do later on in the week. So that's your sort of speed reps work. And then later on in the week, I'll do something like tempo work. So there's so many words for this. This is the only thing. So that could be your lactate threshold. It could be your half marathon pace. People call it your tempo, but your tempo could be any pace. That could be tempo 10K pace, tempo 5K pace. But let's just say it's your lactate threshold. So it's when your lactate starts to rise quite quickly if you had a lab test. Okay. And for a lot of people, that's around, let's say, your half marathon pace or slightly faster. Okay. So I would do lots of work around that. And I would probably do anything from 30 minutes or 25, 30 minutes of effort upwards up to about an hour. Because it's normally about an hour that you can sustain that pace for, or maybe a bit longer before you need to maybe take on a gel or something. So I'll do something like, I don't know, a 40-minute tempo run after a long warm up and some drills and some strides. So that's your slightly longer stuff, but it's going to be easier than your real fast stuff on the Tuesday. And then at the weekend, I'll do a slightly longer run. And again, that longer run varies according to what I'm training for. But really, that is the crux of my training. And then I'll also do some hill training blocks in my season, which will probably be, well, it used to be sort of around here where I'd be doing cross country and things like that. But I also I keep hills in my training all the time because of where I live. But it's really that simple. You know, if you can get one speed session in a week, that's great. And if you mix it up every week, then that's fine as well. So, and the other thing is, a lot of people say, like, do you do any speed when you're doing ultras? Yeah, definitely. I still keep speed working when I'm training for ultras. You know, I think if you're in really good marathon shape, then, you know, you're never going to go wrong. You just need to be more specific to the race that you're doing. So if you're doing a mountain hilly race, then you need to practice on that if you can. So just be a bit more specific to what your race is that you're planning for.
So do you normally have like a set structured week by week, or do you just swap and change it depending on what event you're training for?
Well, again, it depends what I'm training for. But to be honest, I do. And my training is very... I know what I'm doing, but it's ad hoc, as in it will be like, so roughly I'll do my session on a Tuesday and a Friday, but that can change. You know, if I'm not recovered, the other thing is need longer to recover from the back in the day. Back in the day, it would be Tuesdays, Thursdays. I might even do a fartlek session on a Saturday. Then I do a long one on a Sunday. Now it's, normally Tuesdays and Fridays, but that can vary. It could be on a Saturday. It depends on how recovered I am and what I'm doing. And also if I'm training for really, really long ones, I might do back-to-back long runs. So Saturday and Sunday, 2 long runs. But in terms of when I'm coaching people, I coach people on a weekly basis, and I'm also constantly looking at what's going on in their life, because it's very easy to say you should do this on that day and this on the other day. The strength training is really important. We do concurrently train. So we do specifically say the session you do on this day with this lifting on this day, and that's what you should be doing. But if you're going to change it up, it needs to stay in that sort of format, but it could be on a different day. You see what I mean?
Definitely. So you will adjust your training, or the training for the people you're coaching as well, depending on how they're feeling.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I'd have my training set out weeks in advance, and that was just, I think it can be disastrous for people because they feel that they have to do that session on that day. You know, the paperwork says that's why I have to do it. However, you may have had a really shit night's sleep, or, you know, you've eaten badly or something. You're just like, or there's something, you know, you're really busy that day and it's going to be squeezing it in, and you have to be flexible. I wasn't flexible back in the day. Now, because I don't have anything sort of, I know, like, so if I've got 10 weeks to prepare for something, I know those are my key sessions, and it's the same with the athletes. I know there's key sessions that I really would love to get in there, but they can be slotted around accordingly, as long as you've got enough recovery time in between them and it's far enough away from the race. So I think it's just being really organic with it, and not having everything set in stone. But, you know, you need to get X, Y, Z on, but you may not get them in a conventional way sometimes.
Because a lot of people will just have they'll follow a set training plan, and as you say, it'll be set in stone, and that's just what they'll do, even if they're not feeling up to it. So getting everyone to adjust the training. So training wise, do you train to time or distance? How is it when you're out? Are you going to go, I'm going to go out for like a 20-mile run when you're doing a big run, or are you going to go for X amount of time?
It's normally time, actually, to be honest. And so obviously the distance will vary as to the terrain I'm running on. So if I'm on a road, you know, it's obviously going to I'll probably get a few more miles in than if I'm on trail, which could be really slow, especially this time of the year. Or if I'm running with a dog, which is even slower because he spends more time sniffing lampposts than me. But in terms of actual sessions, it will be to time or distance. So I am more, that's definitely sort of very prescriptive. So I know what I'm doing there. And at the weekends, it's normally to time though for long stuff. So I'd say I'd go and do 3 hours or something. But to be honest, at the end of it, it all comes out in the end sort of roughly the right sort of mileage that I want. There will be progression in the mileage over the weeks, and then I try and have a deload week every few weeks, or when I need it, to be honest. So again, that's just listening to my body. But yeah, it's probably more on time these days. It used to be miles because I was obsessed with numbers.
Is this when you were doing more road stuff and time-based, or it was, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say when I was like doing the competitive marathon, so definitely up to 2012, 2013,
right?
It was definitely about that. And then obviously, yeah, moving up to the ultras, you know, split times can mean nothing when you're running in the mountains. I mean, you do like a 20-minute mile.
No, definitely. And when you would, going back to your first ultra, which was Comrades, how did you find that? Why did you pick Comrades?
Actually, it was all because of Marathon Talk, because I'd listened to Tom and Martin and they'd done it.
Yeah, they were going on about it loads.
That's right.
I don't
exactly. And if anyone who's listened to that podcast, go back. If you're thinking about doing Comrades, go back and listen to that podcast, because it sends shivers down your spine. And they just kept going on about how amazing it was. And obviously, I'd heard that was like the biggest, you know, the well-known ultra in the world. And there's not many road ultras, to be honest. And there's 2 Oceans as well in South Africa, which is another great race. And the, you know, the thought of it being on road, and you know, for me, 90k at the time, it was just on the 90k I did the uphill, was like terrifying. Like now I think probably I'd look back on it and go, actually, it's not that bad. Who knows? But so when I got to do it, you know, to get the place, I guess I was super excited. And I have to say the whole event was amazing. Like, it did blow my mind. The start is so atmospheric. The course is incredible. The people on the course, it's just, I can't tell you how busy it is. 5 a.m. and there's just hundreds of people, thousands of people, all having parties, barbecues, all on the course.
So does it compare something like London Marathon, or is it just totally different?
Yeah, it's like London Marathon, but like 90k is a long way. It's point to point, you know, it's not like loops. And I did it, it's uphill. And it is uphill. I mean, when you get to Polly Shorts, you've got 5 miles to go. It is like a proper hill. And it was boiling the year I did it as well. So it was a massive shock system. But like, again, yeah, it's like the London Marathon. People say to you, "Oh, have you done London Marathon?" Didn't they? If you live in the UK and you're a marathon runner, and in South Africa, it's like, "Oh, have you done Comrades?" So it's the same sort of thing. But Comrades has so many great things about it, like the numbers you get. Different numbers for how many races you've done, the medals you've had, and then after a while you get to keep your own number. There's just some really nice traditions, and then obviously the first 10 people, you get a gold medal, which is like amazing, and you get given a rose as you run into the stadium, so you carry this rose. You know, there's so many lovely traditions in Comrades,
and just about everybody over there has ran it as well. It seems to just be every man and his dog has ran Comrades.
Exactly. But the other thing is the cutoffs, which are really like strict. So if you're like a second outside, that's it. You can't go on, or you don't finish. And, you know, they're quite strict cutoffs. So it's just sometimes for some people, it's just beating the cutoffs and the buses going along. So it's an amazing event.
Would you go back and do it again?
Yeah, well, I was supposed to go back and it obviously got cancelled. And I would like to go back because I'd like to do the downhill, because I've done the up to feel like I've ticked them both. But one day I'll get back there. Yeah.
So diet, how important is diet to runners? We'll not go with your pork pie eating, but have you changed your diet much? Because you mentioned, I think I mentioned, when you started doing your runs after London, you still had a poor diet and then addressed that and improved. So what sort of things did you change?
I just basically ate more.
Right.
I just wasn't eating properly. I was going into that typical thing where I just wasn't eating enough food, more purposefully than anything. And it became, you know, it was an issue, like for a lot of runners, unfortunately. But I just learned to switch off, and actually, I don't really like the word eat intuitively, because I probably would eat just chocolate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But I do just try and eat to how I feel. And that is, you know, I don't stick to a diet, a special diet or anything like that. I eat pretty much everything and anything, and everything in moderation. And I really think that is the best way to be, because I think if you start going down these routes of eliminating food groups, I personally, unless you've got a real reason, you know, like an ethical reason or something like that. But I feel that if you can just eat everything in moderation, and I know that everyone says, oh, everything in moderation, that could be McDonald's in moderation, but, you know, sensibly. So I just eat normal food. In the afternoon, if I'm hungry, I do have things like toast and jam or an iced bun or something occasionally, or well, more than occasionally. And I do have a pudding in the evening,
Yeah.
And I think also, I think you'll be surprised at how much you can eat. People are worried that they're going to put loads of weight on, but if you're
burning the calories,
you're burning calories, but also your body regulate. You'll be amazed how your body regulates yourself. Like I've actually stayed the same sort of weight. Well, my weight's gone up, but I think it's mainly because of the weight training. But my body has stayed the same pretty much for the last 15 or so years. And it's because I think I regulate. You know how we all get the weekends maybe might overdo it, or Friday night we might have a takeaway or something, or we might eat extra cake at the weekend or whatever, or drink more or something. What normally happens, I think, is the days Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you're just a little bit more mindful maybe, or you just don't want to eat so much crap food. That's how I am anyway. And I think as soon as you switch off from thinking about food and what you're eating constantly, which is what I did, it just got easier. And I actually, when I tried to eat better, I actually didn't. I know that sounds weird, but I actually feel better now that I just eat intuitively. So I just have, the other thing is I do eat quite a lot of the same foods, as in I eat the same things every day, but I have a variety of foods, but they're the same every day.
Yeah. That's reassuring to hear, because I generally just eat whatever I want, like the couple of curly whirlies I had last night. Yeah. But I don't feel too guilty about it. So, sometimes I hear other people saying that they only eat this, or they're very strict diets, and I think, should I be doing that? So but it's reassuring to hear that you just eat what you want, basically.
I think you'll find
in moderation
that a lot of elite runners as well eat what they want. Okay. And it's sometimes people who are maybe more of the recreational people, I don't know, who can go down these sort of lines. That sounds like a generalization, but it's honestly a lot of people, and especially ultra runners, we just eat whatever we want.
Yeah.
When we finish a race, and a donut or something, or I don't know, whatever, we have it. And I think that you just need to, just be a little bit more relaxed about it. I mean, it's just, that's the great thing about running, isn't it? And any sort of training, that we can eat and we can enjoy ourselves. I don't think you should have to train to eat either. I think you should just be relaxed and just, like you say, eat intuitively. So after dinner, if I want a biscuit with my tea, I'll have one, and a couple of squares of chocolate, which I do pretty much every night. And I haven't turned into a pumpkin.
Brilliant. Yes, that's great. And how has running changed for you over the years? Certainly for me, I've never been fast. I've always been mid-pack, sort of backpack sort of person. But as the years have gone on, I stop a lot more now. I'll stop. I'll be on trails much more. I'll stop, take a picture, and just take it in. And I couldn't give a hoot about the time so much. Whereas before, I've got to go quicker than I went last time, and every runner was trying to push it just that little bit more. But thankfully, I seem to have gotten over that. Has it changed for you at all?
That's really funny, actually. That's exactly the same as me. So my old self would have been shaking her head at me now. The fact that I'll stop. I run with my phone, never ran with the phone, because obviously any little bit of weight was just a really bad thing. So I run with my phone. I might even stop halfway and have a coffee. If I'm passing a cafe with a dog. When I'm doing sessions, no, I am, head down,
focused
purposely. But everything else, no, I it's so the same. And I'm not obsessed with times or stopping my watch constantly if I'm stopping to do something.
I just get to restart it, and then you go mad.
Then you go back to the place where you stopped it. No, it's I guess I'm definitely, you're right, I'm way more relaxed about stuff. And the other thing that I've had to deal with, which has been hard, and I have talked about it to other athletes as well in similar situation, is I've had to try and drop my pride, as in try and not compare myself to the old me, and also compare myself to others, because I have got older. I have got slower on the shorter distances, really slower. But I'm not the athlete that I used to be, and I'll never get PBs again. I just won't. Maybe in much bit longer distances, but I'll never get PBs again. And I've had to come to terms with that. And I know that's something that all athletes have to come to terms with, really, especially if you've been running for a long time, because you can get PBs when you're older because you've started later in life, maybe. But for me, I'm never going to get PBs again, and I just have to accept that. So I have to have new PBs, so
you can go further.
Yeah, exactly. And my PBs in the gym and stuff. So I've had to come to terms with that. And to be honest, I do struggle sometimes with it, but I'm much better about it. I talk to my other teammates, Joe Wilkinson, we talk about it a lot. Ali Dixon, we all talk about it. We're not the athletes we were, but we were great athletes, but we're just not as fast as we were, and we've done our time. So
but it shouldn't always just be about time.
No, it's not exactly, and I'm doing these ultra races, and it's not about time. It's about, for me, it's about beating the men. So it doesn't really matter, and you just have to choose your race, don't you? I mean, I'm not going to win a 10k, but I might win something really long. So I've just got to do a 200 next.
Well, I was just about to say that. So like you've said you don't like the 100 because it's basically just hard work. Would you consider just going further and just taking longer doing it?
Okay, so this is the thing. So I said after the Autumn 100, because again, I have this really, especially this year, been particularly bad. I've been getting this really bad nausea, which a lot of people get in hundreds, but I get it really quite early on, and it's really horrible.
How early on is early on?
So in Autumn 100, it started about 5 hours, which normally it's about 7 or 8. It has been sort of 7 or 8. It's always been sort of my sweet spot. Really, anything over that's when everything starts to sort of come out, literally. And it's not fun running for 10 hours, feeling like, well, and being sick and burping the whole time. It's just horrible. It's not fun. So I said after the 100, I said, I'm not going to do it again. Well, the only 100 I would do is if I got into Western States. It's a whole different story. But if I was going to do I need to think about what races I'm doing unless I can sort out what's going on. But then I thought, but hang on a minute. What about something even longer? But like something like Tour de Jean or something, or I don't know, something crazy, but you have lots of places where you can sleep. Is that different? And so, like, I love stage races. I haven't done stage races for ages, but I have done a few and I loved those. So maybe that's the way forward. But I think it's really hard, and it's and all the time you're running, though, if you're not eating because you feel sick, that's going to catch up with you. It's not like in a marathon where you can. Well, I never feel sick in a marathon. I can take gels, I'll be fine. But if you are feeling a bit sick, you can get away with it to a certain extent. You're going to slow down a bit, but you're going to finish. 100, you cannot get through that unless you're eating or getting something in. And so all the time you're feeling nauseous, and someone's trying to tell you, your pace is trying to tell you you need to get something in, and you're just like, I can't, I feel so sick. You know what it's like if you've had a sick bug or you've got flu and someone's trying to make you eat and you're just like, oh God, no thanks. But at the same time, you're trying to run 100 miles, you're trying to get to the finish, and you know that it's not physically possible unless you put some calories in. And so that's the hard thing. So in answer to that, who knows? I don't know.
Who knows?
You'll see me doing some crazy racing in the next few years, I'm sure.
Can you recommend a couple of exercises that are going to target key areas that runners can do each day and they're going to benefit from?
Are we talking about going in the gym?
Whatever you like. You're running, gym.
Okay, well, this is one, it's not just for everyone, but this is something that we've actually done with a couple of clients this season. And this is probably targeted more at ultra runners or people who are going to be doing hilly stuff. Walking lunges are your friends. And you could do this at home. You don't even need to go to a gym. So we had a client who did 5-day, multi-day on the Cornish coastline. And he lived somewhere very flat. And we got him doing walking lunges. We built up to them, and he ended up doing, I don't know, hundreds of them around his garden, in a car park, whatever. And you can do that holding anything you've got, a child, some bags of sand or nothing, but walking lunges are amazing for stuff like that. The other thing that you could do as well, I'm trying to give you something that potentially you could do at home. Pistol squats are great as well. I do pistol squats. So you can do that off a step. So a pistol squat is imagine you're doing a squat but on one leg. Okay, they're great as well for targeting your butt as well. And then things like side planks are great for your core as well. Side planks. And then there's so many other things you do at the gym, but you can always, when you go to the gym, remember, I get people messaging me saying, oh, what should I do in the gym today or something? And that's such a massive question unless you've got an actual target, but always remember to work opposing muscles. So remember when you're in the gym that you're doing pushing exercises and you do pulling exercises as well.
Okay.
Don't just do all push and don't do all pull.
Yeah.
So I would just say if those are things that you could do at home, and if you're someone who's going to be doing any mountain stuff, go and do walking lunges in your garden if you've got space, or up and down your house. They really work a treat.
Perfect. That's great. So I've got 5 quick fire questions just to end on. So what time of day is it for your runs? Like morning, afternoon, or evening?
Morning, but not really early. I hate early mornings.
Right. Okay. Well, I used to really like really early mornings. Just get back to the house before anyone else was up, and you just had a sense of satisfaction. You've done something.
I like the idea of that, but I hate going out really. Afterwards, I feel great, but during, at the beginning, I feel terrible. So for me, sweet spot is probably about anything between 8 and 9.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Gels or solid food?
Ooh. I have to say gels, because really that's the only stuff that I can get in a lot of time. I know that sounds crazy, but it's probably going to be, for most of my races, it'd be gels, because I'd use them in marathons as well. I definitely wouldn't be pork pie in a marathon.
Okay. Do you have a favorite type of gel?
Yes, I really like Morton or Torque.
Oh, yeah. Morton. Yeah. That's about the only gel I can stomach.
It is a bit like wallpaper paste, but you can just, get it in.
But it's amazingly nice.
Yeah, it is. It's just not offensive, is it?
No, it's less gloopy. It's more pasty.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And the Torque ones, I mean, I like. I think it's rhubarb and custard.
Okay, very good. Yeah. Beer, wine, or spirits?
Beer.
Okay. Music, podcasts, or nothing?
Music for sessions, podcasts for easy runs.
No marathon talk on your run then?
Hate listening to myself, so I listen to. Okay, I'll give you some podcasts I listen to.
Yeah.
I love Dylan Bowman. He's an American. You should get him on your show. Yeah. I love Coopcast. Yes, yeah. Oh, did he? Oh, great. Yeah. Jason Coop is a great American coach. He's got on Coopcast. What else do I like? Bad Boy Running. Mm-hmm. I like Nourish, Balance, Thrive. And I like some like geeky stuff like Freakonomics and things like that.
Okay. And favorite running book?
Once a Runner.
Who did that one?
It is John. Oh, I've forgotten his name. I want to say maybe Parker. It might be wrong. It's like an American collegiate book.
Once a Runner.
It's great.
I've not heard of that one.
Once a Runner. Yeah.
Okay. And social media, everyone can find you if they check Rush by Nature, can't they? And
yeah, I'm Rush by Nature. Yeah, on Instagram and also website.
Okay. Yeah. So everyone.
And same on Twitter.
Sorry, carry on.
And same on Twitter. I think I'm Rush by Nature, everything. Or ASICS Front Runner website. Obviously, I'm on there as well. Okay.
And are you active on Twitter? Or I don't really do Twitter, but is that something you're on a lot? Twitter?
I'm active. No, I'm not really. I sort of repost stuff. I don't really. I used to be, but I find that Twitter can be, the depths of despair quite a bit. So yeah. I don't. And to be honest, Instagram's not much better. But it's all something I have to do as part of my job. And I've said to many people, I'd happily go and live in the woods and have no signal, but because I have to do it, I try and be a good person on Instagram, but Twitter I don't get involved with. I used to love Twitter, but now you can just waste hours, days, months of your life on that stuff.
Right, yeah, you can. Better off getting out, going for a run.
Exactly, get out, go for a run and just switch off. It's just, it's better for the soul.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, well, thanks very much for doing this. It's been great, and hopefully loads of people watch this and take loads of info that you've given us. It's been really, really insightful and good to know that you eat just whatever you want. That's really refreshing.
I mean, I say I eat whatever I want. No, I do eat whatever I want. I don't just eat, because I just, like, some days you eat rubbish food, don't you? And the next day you sort of equal it out.
You're a bit more mindful the next day, aren't you? I shouldn't really have had that yesterday.
Well, I'm not even mindful. I just don't want it. Right. I genuinely, if I have a couple of days of overindulging, I just think, I just really want some vegetables.
Yeah. What do you crave? I know I said we'd wrap this up, but just out of interest, what do you kind of crave on an ultra? Are you often crave ice cream and fruit, which is a bit random.
Well, this is the annoying thing, isn't it? I'm not really a fruit person. That's one thing I'll say. I don't really eat fruit. If I eat anything, it would be bananas, but I don't really, it just doesn't, I'm just not interested in fruit.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of vegetables and things, but in ultras, this is the other thing, is pretty much every time I do an ultra, I want something different. So therefore it's so annoying for planning, because you can't plan.
You don't know what you're going to want.
Yeah, the weather makes a difference. If it's hot, you crave different stuff, don't you? If it's cool, you crave different stuff, you know, like soups and stuff. But pretty much I think I have things like I do eat pork pies. They have to be the mini ones, which are quite squidgy. And things like sandwiches, like jam sandwiches, work quite well for me in the Autumn 100. What happens towards the end, it's just flat Coke I can get in.
Yeah.
And then I actually, the last 25 miles, I started eating salty crisps. It's you know, it's
well,
not people
like,
go from
as if you're eating sand at that point.
No, I mean, I know what you mean, like being dry and stuff. Yeah, that is a thing. But no, I genuinely, so Gary, who is my, shout out to Gary House, who's my pacer for that last 25, he was just like, oh, why don't you just try some crisps? And I was like, oh, Gary, I cannot even think about eating any food. It's just like I've been sick in my mouth. And I was just like, oh, I can't. And he was like, just give it a go. And I picked up these crisps, and they're like in a little cardboard thing. And I started eating them, and I was talking to the aid station people whilst I was eating them without realizing I was actually eating them. And I was like, oh, actually I can eat these. So I think you have to, and that's what's so great about ultras. They do have at the checkpoints, it is like going to like a wedding buffet, and there's loads of different stuff out, and you just look at it and you go, oh, actually I'll try that. It goes against everything that we say, like try everything before you race, you know. But actually in ultras, and 100 miles especially, that goes out the window. You just say, okay, I want cold pizza, or I want, you know, sausages or something. In Comrades, I was really wanting chicken wings in the last sort of 5 miles, which is weird. Whereas that's not what I wanted in the Autumn 100. So I have to say, it varies. And a lot of people say they start off sweet and then they go savory because you just want salty stuff. And also, if you've been eating gels and sweet stuff for like 10, 15 hours, your body just hates it. It's had enough.
Yeah. I've only done 100
stop now.
And I've only done 100, and I couldn't eat anything after mile 45. So it was absolutely bloody horrendous. So you were just getting weaker and weaker as you went along. You just couldn't stomach anything.
And you know in your mind that this isn't the right way to go. You know that you've got 55 miles, and if you can't eat anything, well, you know, you're going to stop. So you're trying to have this argument with yourself about like, I need to get something in, but it's like, I can only compare it, like you say, as if when you have a stomach bug and you've been sick, and then someone's trying to feed you like chicken soup or something, and you're just like, no, I just can't do it, whilst you're running as well. So imagine that. It's just, so that's why when I finish 100, I'm just like, never.
Perfect. Well, on that, let's call that.
I know where it wears off after a couple of days or weeks, and then you forget.
I know. Perfect. Right. Well, let's end it there, because I'm sure you've got 100 other things you need to do as well. So thanks for joining us, Holly. Thanks very much for that. And thanks everyone for watching.
Thank you.